Tonight, we need to talk about something, and I'd love to hear people's feelings on it. It's something we don't discuss much in the media or in Congress. But when you talk about people losing faith in the American political system, it's justified. This is because we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Here comes the truth bomb. When the socialist sensation exposed Trump's chaotic domestic life, it's like a Jackass extra in a Cayman Islands account scandal. Bernie Sanders just peeled back the curtain on Donald Trump's marriage, like a villain from Groundhog Day, dissecting his golf course bankruptcies. The man who once railed against billionaires in healthcare is now out here roasting Trump's God tantrum tornado on domestic life, dropping a truth bomb that sent Mar-a-Lago's marble floors into Jurassic Park-level chaos. The roast of Trump is like a bun and cuff thief emoji scalpel. It shows that your marriage is worse than your Cayman Islands account delusions. Trump's scrambling, like his prenup caught fire, drafting fake news tweets, while Sanders explains why Melania's side-eyeing him harder than ever. The tragedy of Trump's damage control is peak mission, impossible incompetence. He's out here rage tweeting that he's a Marxist while his golf course files for bankruptcy again. Late night hosts had a field day. Why is Trump mad? Because Bernie's out here exposing his cuff-flavored marriage with a scalpel. The internet's laughing so hard, they're crying, and memes flood timelines. Sanders roasted Trump's marriage as a disaster, while Trump said, "I'm the victim," and Melania side-eyed him. Then there's Mr. Musk, who goes around with a metaphorical chainsaw, slashing jobs everywhere, telling people, based on nothing, that they have poor performance records, and throwing them out into the street. It's outrageous. But I want to say something else. I was just on the floor a few hours ago, and they've decided in their brilliance, probably a Musk initiative, to lay off 83,000 workers. Before we proceed, you really don't want to miss this, so hit the like button and subscribe. With just a microphone and an angry heart, Bernie Sanders was doing what he does best, pulverizing Wall Street at his family reunion. He was in the middle of making fun of pharmaceutical CEOs as though they had just doubled the price of insulin, when he unexpectedly veered off course, not in a political way, but in a very unexpected one. This wasn't about the economy or repairing relationships with allies like Canada after the second Trump administration. Well, I think there's going to have to be an acknowledgement that what we stand for as a country is not to be the bully of the world again. As I mentioned earlier, the idea that you insult the Prime Minister, tell Canada they're going to become a 51st state, or tell Denmark that we're taking Greenland from them is outrageous. No, this was Bernie Sanders veering sharply to the left, straight into Donald Trump's marriage, which was the most unimaginable thing. No one asked him. He wasn't prompted. Bernie was done, but the press wasn't talking about Melania. Between his 8th rant about corporate greed and his 20th finger wag, you could practically see the gears spinning. And then he snapped. Bernie took precious time attacking the other side because, as we saw last week, that kind of talk only serves to divide the country further. I'm here because we need my husband to be our president and commander-in-chief for 4 more years. And the words that left the crowd in stunned silence were released. Let's discuss the marriage of Donald Trump. Hold on. What is Trump doing now? Did Bernie attain his final evolution as a political Pokemon that now breathes fire? Or was this a Matrix glitch? He didn't hesitate. Like a disgruntled uncle at Thanksgiving dinner, Bernie ripped through the thick fantasy of the phony photo Trump has spent years perfecting. Trump now flaunts this image of having the most stable marriage in history, representing conservative family values, while Melania seemed to be waiting for the next life raft to pass by. Meanwhile, the evidence is pretty clear. When a president gets inaugurated, standing behind him are the three wealthiest people in the country, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg. Then, scattered throughout the stage, 13 other billionaires whom Trump nominated to head major agencies, Secretary of Treasury, etc. Can you tell me what you would call it? I find it hard not to describe it as a government of the billionaires. And that's when Bernie officially entered his I don't care anymore phase. It was magnificent. The mask and gloves were off. Can you really blame him with his awkward body language, hand swats, and the fact that Melania only appears when she's being dragged out like the last piece of cake at a donor dinner? The Trump marriage has been presented to us as some sort of aspirational romantic comedy. In fact, it's more like a hostage negotiation wrapped in a tax shelter. For years, it has been calling for assistance. Grace's question was about what happens after Trump finishes his second term. But we've got a lot of repair work to do. No, but you know what he said about a third term. Do you think he's serious? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think you have somebody whose main goal is power and wealth for his oligarch friends. So nothing about Trump would surprise me. I want you to meet Giant Chattery, a student at Georgetown University, originally from New York. He's a Democrat. Giant, welcome. Hi, Senator Sanders. Senator, for many years, the rest of us have been thinking since 2017 that this isn't a marriage, and Bernie, bless his tired soul, finally stated it. It's an awful brand partnership. The shift in the room was palpable. Even the reporters surveyed the area, wondering whether Bernie had suddenly gone into full ferocious mode. Yes, he did. He certainly did. After decades of fighting the system and watching Trump sell snake oil on golden toilet paper, there comes a time when the gloves come off and the truth comes out. Apparently, that day arrived when Bernie completely destroyed the Trump marriage illusion on national television, and Trump's team frantically reorganized his advisors, most likely beginning to search Google. Is it possible to sue someone for causing emotional harm to your ego? However, the truth was already known. For once, it wasn't about big pharma or billionaires, but rather, Bernie had unleashed the floodgates. It was about the greatest political fallacy, the notion that Donald Trump is a contented husband. It was intended to be a standard campaign speech with a few remarks about corporate greed and possibly a little shaming of Patagonia vests and Wall Street brothers. Bernie, on the other hand, chose to toast marshmallows over Donald Trump's personal life blaze. This wasn't a drive-by, people. This demolition was extensive. In the upcoming 29 days, are you concerned about your husband's safety? About your husband's safety in the next 29 days? Of course I do. Yes, I do. I think, when they call him a threat to democracy, let's ask ourselves, who is really a threat to democracy? A starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, which has not been raised in 10 years to $15 an hour. A living wage. Stage smiles, prepared speeches, and mayhem behind the scenes. Bernie simply held up the mirror so that America could see the wreck. For a long time, Trump didn't exhibit vulnerability. He handled branding. He is not a lover. He creates expiration-dated loyalty contracts. His marriage is the same commodity he sells throughout the nation. Shiny, rehearsed, and covertly collapsing. When Bernie visited, he was a walking infomercial, wearing a crimson tie that was too long for its own good. Like a rock opera with caffeine, he broke the glass. The nicest part is that this time, he didn't even yell. He simply let the facts do the talking. It's not simply strange that Melania didn't participate in the 2024 campaign. Compared to Trump's rally speech, it was louder. Convincing your own wife that you deserve praise is the first step toward becoming a nation's leader. Oh, how Trump responded. The sizzle of the spray tan was almost audible. Indeed, he was reportedly furious. And Trump doesn't compose essays when he's upset. He acts hotly on his preferred medium, the Craigslist-like Twitter impersonator, with a superiority complex. My own thoughts. I have my own yes and no. I don't always agree with what my husband is saying or doing, and that's okay. Are you able to tell him when you disagree? I gave him my advice, and sometimes he listens, sometimes he doesn't. The idea that the President of the United States would threaten and harass attorneys and law firms that defended people he didn't like is a major step forward toward authoritarianism. By the way, some of these big law firms, Paul Weiss, for instance, caved in. We look to these law firms, who have hundreds of well-paid lawyers, to defend the Constitution and the rule of law. These guys, these big law firms, often behave as if saying it enough times would make Melania emerge out of thin air with a homemade apple pie and a MAGA apron. He ranted, shouted, and claimed that everything was wonderful at home. However, she didn't, most likely because she was preoccupied with calculating the area of her emotional distance. It becomes poetry at this point. Bernie revealed everything without saying much. He simply referred to the manufactured photo ops, the silence, and the fact that Trump appears to have lost the one thing he can't purchase: respect. Despite having it all, Bernie had a clear message. Don't expect people to ignore a leak in your home if it was constructed on the basis of campaign trail lies and reality TV contracts. This is especially true if your marriage is as warm as an airport terminal. Let's discuss the symbolism as well. Trump relied on appearances to build his political and business empire. The look at my perfect life narrative, made for TV, children, and gold-plated everything. However, the issue with illusions is that they don't simply vanish when someone prods them. They collapse, and Bernie delivered the sledgehammer of emotion. Now, Bernie wasn't being personal just to get a zinger. This was intentional and surgical, because the consequences take care of the rest for you. When you expose a falsehood this significant, people are skeptical of me discussing this topic. I have been criticized for my commitment to tackling this issue, and I know that will continue, but it will not stop me from doing what I know is right. Let's start the media frenzy. The networks were suddenly unable to obtain enough split-screen footage of Bernie calmly dropping bombshells of truth, as Trump frantically attempted to preserve dignity with cliched slogans and desperate comments. The general public, yes, they saw that. Social media was ablaze with responses, memes, and hot takes. After leaving Medicare, Bernie started having marital affairs. Even the most politically cynical Americans couldn't help but laugh when he burned the prenup in one sentence on the campaign trail. This is because Bernie Sanders, who doesn't even comb his hair, managed to look 10 times more put together than the man who is said to have written The Art of the Deal. Remember, this moment was a portent of something greater. After years of attempting to avoid conflict, play nice, and follow the law, Democrats were taken advantage of by a man whose campaign approach essentially used insecurity as a weapon. Therefore, it felt like justice when Bernie broke that code. At last, someone criticized the emperor for not only lacking clothing, but also for having no relationships with anyone who wasn't bound by a contract. Oh, how the empire fell apart. You can't divert attention from a marriage that appears to be a genuine housewife storyline, especially when your own wife would rather rebuild a Slovenian villa than accompany you on the trail. Trump tried the standard strategy of denial, deflection, and distraction. The United States and Canada. We have had a very warm, positive relationship. They are our neighbors. They are our friends. And right now, I got to tell you that in Canada, when you have a president of the United States who goes out of his way to insult